Folks, welcome back. It's been entirely too long. Now we've got some interesting stuff coming up, but today we've got an easy one. Now, this is my Garmin Edge 500. 500? I think it's a 500. What this is a little computer you use for cycling. It has a GPS inside, and it's got some other sensors, so it can tell you stuff like your heart rate, your pedaling cadence, and that kind of stuff. And you can plug it in and download the data and plug it into stuff like Strava. But a month or two ago, I was out on a ride, and this just quit working. And that's unsurprising because I've had it for about 10 years, and as far as I know, the battery inside it is original. So it's probably time to change this battery, and wouldn't you know it, you can actually get the battery for it from iFixit. So I've got a fresh battery, I've got my iFixit toolkit, and that should be almost everything we need to repair this. However, I think there's actually a little bit of soldering that's required for this particular model, because if we take this battery out of here, if we look at the battery, we can see we've got these two tiny leads that are tinned on the end, in addition to this connector. So it looks like there's probably a connector in there that goes to the board, and then there's something else that connects to these leads that we may need to unsolder and solder the new ones on. So I came prepared. Anyway, what do you say we go ahead and get after this? So let's set this aside here. And first order of business is get our T5 screws out of here. There we go. So there's one. There's two. Three. And four. All right. Those out. There we go. We can crack it open. I thought I was going to need a tool, but that was easy enough. There's a lens on this, so be careful with it. And this has a ribbon cable, so also be careful with that. All right, so let's peel this up. Okay. This ribbon cable comes out, so we've got a connector there. We can use a fingernail to pry the latch out of the connector, and that comes out. We set it aside. Now we've got our board in here that's held in by 3 Phillips. Our board is held in by 3 double-aught screws. All right, so we're going to take this gasket out of here, set it aside. Don't forget to put that back in, obviously. Right, there we go. Okay. So you got to grab onto the board with something and pull it out. Here we go. Got our battery, which is it's a little bit puffy. And we've got our connector over here, covered by a little piece of tape. Then our connector, just pull right out. All right, there we go. So here's our board. Set that aside. Next order of business is we got to get this battery out of here without puncturing it. Let's try. Oh yeah, there we go. So I'm using one of these blue pry tools. There we go. Ah, okay. So if we lift the battery out, we can see we've got 2 connections down here, I guess for the speaker, that we're going to need to unsolder. So I'm going to fire up my soldering iron here. We may try to see if we can salvage this double stick adhesive as well, since I don't have a spare one. All right, so there we go. There's one side. There's our other side. Okay, so there's our old battery out of the way. All right, so we got our new battery. All right, before we do anything else, we need to get these 2 wires soldered to that speaker. I assume it's a speaker. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our soldering iron here, And we're just going to solder them in there from the same direction that they were in there before. So they kind of came from over here and down to there. And that's just how we're going to do it. There's one. And there's two. All right, so if you look at the board, you'll see you've got our USB port here, and that has to stick down into that hole. So this has to be flipped over like this, and it would go in there like that, which puts our battery connector over on this side. And that means we need our battery in this way. And I put this adhesive on wrong before, so we'll peel that back off, put it on this side. What we want, I'll put it there. What we want is our connector to be over here. So we'll kind of fish our wires in there. Stick the battery down. I don't think it's super critical if it doesn't stick especially well. And then we made up our connector to the connector on the board. Make sure we get it seated all the way. Like that. And then our board can go back into the housing just like that. And at this point, reassembly is basically just the reverse of removal. So we'll put our little screws back in. So we got one here. Like that. Okay. Then lastly, we grab our screen. And get the cable seated in there. The little connector. And we flip the little plastic bail down. And there we go. Now, at this point, I'm actually going to power this up and test it to see if a repair was successful in the sense of getting it working again, but also just to make sure that we didn't not plug anything in. So let's power it up, which is this button here. There we go. We're up and running. So I think we're probably golden. So while that boots up, let's put our little gasket back in. Like so. Battery's low. Okay, so battery needs to be charged. It's at 4% currently, but it is working. So we're going to say okay. And then we're going to see if we can, yeah. All right, so we'll shut it down, finish putting it back together. There we go, like that. Now we'll grab our T5, put our screws back in. All right, there we go, all back together. All right, folks, there we go. We got the device back together, and it seems to be working. I think we're going to call this a success. There are a few other Garmin Edge models that this procedure should apply to. There's like an Edge 200 and an 820, and there's one other 205 maybe. But I suspect that most of these Garmin Edge devices probably are constructed very similar to this. So if you're working on a different one, chances are it'll be similar. At any rate, if you're working on a 500, I hope this helped you out and got your thing back up and running. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.